This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.
No mercy!
This ought to be a good fight. Ha!
Yeah! Thundercloud blade!
Ha! Yeah!
Yeah! Wish they
Aw,
could have
over
lasted
already?
longer.
Excellent.
Square Enix's Star Ocean RPG series is making its Western Nintendo console debut with the launch of Star Ocean First Departure R, a remake of the first game in the series. While the Star Ocean franchise has made it over in English before, it's not a series that has the name recognition of a Final Fantasy or a Dragon Quest. Playing the latest release, even if it's a port of a remake, has been a fun experience on Switch. If you want to read my full thoughts, go read the written review at NintendoWorldReport.com, links hopefully in the description. In this video, we're going to lay down a few fun reasons why maybe, just maybe, you should check out Star Ocean First Departure R on the Switch, or it's also on other platforms too. First off, it's a good remaster of a good remake. Star Ocean debuted on the Super Famicom in 1996, never making it over to America outside of fan translations for years and years. The first game was then remade on PSP in 2007 as Star Ocean First Departure, which did come out in America and Europe in 2008. That release is the foundation for the Switch release, which is more or less a straight HD remaster of the PSP game. The PSP remake and subsequently the 2019 Switch release feature a bevy of upgrades from the 1996 original, primarily visual embellishments like improved animation, pre-rendered backgrounds, and 3D battles. Extensive voice work was added, and at least in the Switch release you can easily toggle between Japanese and English voices. However, it's worth noting that the Super Famicom release actually did have voice samples in battle, which is absolutely nuts for a Super Nintendo game. So this is also just basically a Tales spin-off. In 1994, Namco published Tales of Phantasia, a Super Famicom RPG that kicked off the legendary Tales series. It was most recently on the Switch in Tales of Vesperia. The developers of that initial game was Wolf Team, a promising studio working with Namco for the very first time. Numerous creative conflicts led to the majority of Wolf Team's founding members leaving after Tales of Phantasia came out. From the ashes of Phantasia came Tri-Ace, a new studio that started working with Dragon Quest publisher Enix on a new RPG. If you haven't gotten the drift yet, that game is Star Ocean. We'll get to how the battle system of Star Ocean resembles Tales of Phantasia shortly, but you've probably heard of Tri-Ace before if you've paid attention to offbeat RPGs for the past 2 decades. In addition to the Star Ocean series, Tri-Ace also developed Valkyrie Profile, Radiata Stories, and Residents of Fate. They even helped out with Final Fantasy XIII-2 and Lightning Returns. So now let's get to the action RPG battle system. The battle system is very reminiscent of the Tales series. Random battles occur in the overworld and in dungeons, but they aren't turn-based affairs. Instead, you control one character in real time, while the other members of your 4-person party are controlled by the computer. Basic attacks are a little button mashy as you try to go up and melee attack enemies with combos, but as you progress it deepens with skills and special moves. You can switch between party members easily and move around the battlefield to flank opponents. Another neat thing about Star Ocean First Departure R is the private actions and character recruitment that really kinda add a lot to the story. Part of Wolf Team's creative issues with Namco on Tales of Phantasia was that they reportedly felt frustrated by the limits of the storytelling. To combat that, they made Star Ocean a little bit more open-ended. At the core of that are 2 mechanics. Private actions let you take the protagonist Roddick solo around towns, completing world-building and backstory-gaining events and side quests that can deepen his affinity with other characters. Some of these also extend to other in-game choices, and while the overarching story is on a set path, various parts of the ending can be added or changed based on these affinity levels. Character recruitment is also peculiar in Star Ocean. There are 10 playable characters, though you can only ever have an 8-person party. 4 of the party members are set in stone, but the other 4 slots can vary wildly depending on your in-game actions, varying from who you recruit when and what choices you make along the way in the story. An early example is that the powerful Ceus, who joins your party early on, can be permanently recruited shortly after he joins you. Doing that will then lock you off from a later potential character, but will also make you a lot more powerful early on, so there's kind of a give and a take. Another reason that Star Ocean might be on your radar is that MOTOI SAKURABA worked on the soundtrack. That's right, that's a guy who Nintendo fans might know as the composer responsible for Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, and Golden Sun. He's worked with Camelot a lot. He's also worked on the Tales games. He made the soundtrack for Star Ocean, as well as basically all of Tri-Ace's games. In addition to those more direct Nintendo-adjacent works, he has also worked on the Dark Souls series, as well as arranging numerous tracks for Super Smash Bros. Games. Sakuraba makes great music, y'all. You should at least check this one out. You should be hearing it right now. Let's take maybe a little listen. Lastly, this was almost a late-gen American Super Nintendo classic. Okay, so maybe that's not necessarily a reason why you should check it out, but it's just kind of a neat little fun fact. So before Squaresoft and Enix merged, making the behemoth that is Square Enix that put out this game on Switch, Enix was a notable Japanese publisher trying to retain a foothold in North America. Enix America was their North American branch that was founded after Dragon Warrior, which we now know as Dragon Quest, came out courtesy of Nintendo of America. For 5 years, Enix America brought over games such as the subsequent Dragon Quest NES games, as well as the likes of ActRaiser, Ogre Battle, and Soul Blazer. However, Enix America stopped publishing games by the time Star Ocean was viable for localization, and unlike their deal with Nintendo of America for Illusion of Gaia, Nintendo wasn't interested in bringing this game over as well because it, came out in 1996, then Nintendo 64 was coming out. So Star Ocean would make its Western debut with the sequel, Star Ocean: The Second Story, which was published by Sony worldwide on the PlayStation in the late 90s. That game was remade for PSP also, so maybe if Star Ocean First Departure R does well on Switch and other platforms, we will see the second Star Ocean's remake ported to HD consoles soon. That'd be pretty neat, because the first game's real fun. So there's some reasons and fun facts about Star Ocean First Departure R. Be sure to check out our review over at NintendoReport.com. Spoiler, I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a really fun game, and if you're longing for that kind of throwback JRPG, and you like Tales games, it's a little more, I guess, action-oriented because of the battle system, and it's a real good time. Some of those private actions and character recruitment stuff is really neat. Like, I probably won't do it because there's a million games coming out on Switch, but it would be neat to go through that by making different decisions on character recruitments. For example, I did not bring Cius along. I actually went with Ashley. Who's the old one-armed guy. Star Ocean First Departure R is basically out on Switch right now, or tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this, listening to this. Thanks for watching, bye.
This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.